This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. After a 4-week evacuation, the city of Flin Flon welcomed people home today. They were forced out by a fast-moving wildfire that is still burning out of control, but officials have decided it's safe for the community to return. The CBC's Josh Crabb is in Flin Flon tonight. So Josh, you joined evacuees as they returned home. What did they come back to?
Riley, people returned to a community still standing in the face of a ferocious fire. There was rotten food in fridges and some bad smells to freshen up. All in all, many here are feeling fortunate because some people in a nearby community weren't so lucky. But getting back to normal here will take some time. A long lineup of vehicles and campers formed on a highway that's been closed for weeks. It was filled with evacuees eagerly waiting to go home.
Got to get back and see what's there to satisfy my mind, I guess.
It's bittersweet for Ken Bruff. His daughter's home and business in the nearby village of Denair Beach, Saskatchewan, were both destroyed by wildfire. He brought home a truck full of donated supplies from people in Binscarth to help her family rebuild.
It's a very nice little town. They donated a lot of stuff for her, furniture and clothes for the kids and dishes, everything.
People there are seeing the devastation of a community in shambles. Some are asking for space as they mourn and process what was lost. What happened at Denair Beach is resonating with Flin Flon.
We know that we have a lot of community that has had loss, but I think everybody is extremely happy to be home. I think 30 days is very emotionally tiring, physically and financially.
The city lifted its mandatory wildfire evacuation after 4 weeks at 9 o'clock Wednesday morning. In residential areas, people returned to overgrown lawns and swept ash off their decks.
When we got home, this room was just filled with water.
Ainsley McIntosh Stallard's home flooded while she was gone. The power went out and the sump pump failed. She turned on her sprinklers before leaving Flin Flon, and all that water ended up inside. Still, she feels fortunate compared to those who lost everything outside the city.
We're all so happy and relieved to be home and that we have them, but then immediately in turn, your heart kind of aches that you're able to feel this happy.
While life slowly returns to the streets of Flin Flon, the fire that forced people out is still burning out of control.
We need you to be safe. We need the people of Flin Flon to be safe.
Flin Flon's fire department fought long and hard to protect the city and got help from crews from across the province. Dozens of firefighters are still working to contain the out-of-control blaze.
We had members doing everything they possibly could with whatever equipment we could have.
The fire chief says firefighters were working 18 to 20-hour days to protect the city. He says the fire burned right to the edge of Flin Flon, but they were able to keep it out. That fire is now more than 370,000 hectares in size, and officials warn for people who've returned that they're likely to notice flare-ups and smoke. Riley.
Thank you, Josh. The CBC's Josh Crabb reporting from Flin Flon tonight. Further north, residents in Lynn Lake are being warned that wildfire smoke could trigger another evacuation in the coming days. The northern Manitoba community was forced to evacuate a month ago due to wildfires. Now, smoke from the still burning fire in that area could force them out again. People are being asked to be ready to leave on short notice and have a go bag ready in the event that an evacuation order is put into effect. A 23-year-old woman is recovering in hospital after being attacked Sunday night in Osborne Village. She now fears for her safety and is asking police to do something to make streets safer for everyone. The CBC's Felicia Adam has her story.
Just minutes from this bus stop is where a 23-year-old woman was attacked by strangers while on her way home from working the evening shift. It's a route she's taken for the past 2 years. But on Sunday, just after midnight, while walking home, she says she was knocked to the ground and stabbed multiple times in the back, stomach, legs, and in her left eye. We're only identifying her by using her first name, as the attack has left her fearful for her life.
I was just thinking like I will die. I can't live anymore.
Tanpreet is now in stable condition at the hospital. She says she was attacked by 2 people who then took her phone, credit cards, and IDs.
And I was almost in front of my apartment across the street. And then I just heard like running footsteps, like for just 1 or 2 seconds. And when I looked back, they just pushed me and I was on the ground.
When the attack happened, Tanpreet was on the phone with her mother, still in India. Her first instinct was to end the call, protecting her mother from what was happening.
Because she can't do anything right, she can't come, but she can hear everything, so she will just get stressed.
Tanpreet says the attack left her unconscious and doesn't know how long it lasted. She's had 2 major surgeries, one on her back and one to repair the damage in her left eye.
Like she came here like for the better future and not for this, right? She doesn't deserve this.
Ramandeep is Tanpreet's sister-in-law. With most of Tanpreet's family not in the country and her brother visiting back home, Ramandeep has become a source of support.
I have to take care of her. I want to be with her all the time, and I want to be, like I want to see her like same as she's before.
Winnipeg police say Major Crimes has taken over the investigation. A 17-year-old girl has been charged with assault and robbery. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg woman is speaking out about an incident that occurred when she was boarding a Flair Airlines flight. The passenger, who was Muslim, was forced to remove her hijab by a Flair employee. The employee claimed it was to verify her identity, but the family says it was a violation of their religious rights. The CBC's Mike Arsenault reports.
This is the picture of all of us going there.
Kazi Amin's return flight from a family visit in Bangladesh was shocking. On her way home, she changed planes in Toronto and cleared customs, but says she was stopped by a Flair Airlines employee when she tried to board her plane.
The airline employee took my passport, look at my passport and look at me and say that my passport doesn't match with my face. So I have to remove my headscarf.
Amin's headscarf, or hijab, is a religious garment worn by some Muslim women. Amin explained the hijab can't be taken off for religious purposes. She says Flair wouldn't listen.
Don't know what else I could do. I removed my hijab. In public, we are not allowed to remove hijab in public. We can remove hijab only in front of our family.
Amin's passport photo was taken in 2016 before she wore a hijab. She says Flair told her to take it off because her hair was different. Amin's daughter, Afsara Raida, says that's not a reasonable excuse.
I'm blonde right now. I can go back to being dark-haired, right? So is she going to go make me bleach my hair right then and there before I board the aircraft? Doesn't make sense.
Amin had cleared both customs and security when she was asked to take off the headscarf. The Canadian Air Transport Security Authority's website says passengers don't have to remove religious head coverings unless an alarm goes off during security screening. The guidelines go on to say if a physical search is required, passengers are supposed to be given the option to have that search conducted in private. Amin says she wasn't given that option. Flair says an employee is on leave and there's an investigation. It says the worker is employed by Flair's ground partner, AGI. A statement from Flair says, in part, "We expect all service partners to uphold the same standards of respect, professionalism, and non-discrimination that we require of our own team." AGI has issued a formal apology to the passenger. Raida says the apology is vague. She'd like to see it address her mother directly and post it across Flair's social media platforms so the public can see it.
It's not just to my mother. There's a lot of other people that have gone through a similar situation, and it's not just Muslim women.
Raida says she's talking with her lawyer about taking legal action. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, looking at the skyline as seen from the Forks this afternoon on a bit of a grayer day across Winnipeg and across southern Manitoba. A few stray showers here in the city, at least here in the downtown throughout the afternoon. Meteorologist Colette Kennedy's here now, and Colette, a bit of a cooler one across the south as well.
Thanks, Riley. Well, all in all, not a bad day across the province. A few areas, yes, closer to the international border with some wet weather and temperatures then. We're looking at some high teens instead of low 20s, but most of those showers pushing away from Winnipeg. Now and through the overnight, we get into some clearing, 13 degrees for the low with a fairly light wind out of the south. And then tomorrow, mostly sunny to start things off. Around 7, 8 a.m. will be at about 15 degrees. And then maybe midday, a few extra clouds kind of popping in there. Otherwise, we get to keep the mostly sunny skies and the temperature headed up to seasonal with a high of 25. The winds pick up a little bit as we get to the latter part of the day. I do want to talk about some encouraging weather I'm seeing with a chance for some rain into parts of the province that so desperately need it. I'll have that coming up.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much, Colette. We have a warning tonight about the dangers of using off-road vehicles. It's the time of year when many are getting ready to hit the trails on an ATV, but riding those vehicles can be dangerous and collisions can be fatal. The CBC's Alana Cole reports.
The tires are to be checking the integrity of the tire from front to back.
Part of Terrace Barron's job, teaching young people about ATV safety.
We start the basic fundamentals of ATV safety with the children in the schools, proper equipment use and wear, helmet being the number one thing that we do want them to understand that they have to wear.
As people head out on the trails this summer, a look at the dangers posed by off-road vehicles. MPI says 12 people have been killed in collisions involving ORVs in the last 5 years. Dr. Lynn Warda works in the emergency department at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital. She says they see 80 to 100 ATV injuries a year. Patients range in age, the injuries can be severe, and some have long-term effects.
Some of them will end up having more traumatic brain injury, so difficulty at school, with memory, learning, mental health.
Warda says the Canadian Pediatric Society recommends a minimum age of 16 years old to drive off-road vehicles. She supports that. Her message to parents, think about things like size and skill.
Think about your tiny 8-year-old and whether they really have the strength and also developmentally the rapid decision making that's needed, the judgment. It's like driving a car, but I think it's harder because it's more physical and they're not protected.
In Manitoba, those under 14 can operate an off-road vehicle if supervised, accompanied, and in the sight of an adult at all times.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says it's also key to ensure riders are wearing helmets and protective gear and make sure vehicles match the age and ability of the rider.
To the young people who are listening, your life, your safety, your future are more important than a dare or a shortcut or something that is dangerous to you and your friends.
Barron says right now training is optional. He says the hope is the government will make it mandatory for people to have some basic understanding and knowledge to use off-road vehicles safely. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The cost to insure your vehicle could be going up again next year. Manitoba Public Insurance is asking the regulatory body for a 2.07% increase to basic rates starting in April of 2026. That translates to an increase of about $21 per month for the average passenger vehicle. The Consumers Association of Canada says MPI's ask seems reasonable, especially given the challenges surrounding the cancellation of its IT overhaul and leadership changes.
MPI is a corporation in the midst of a recovery. There are promising signs, but we still need to make sure there are good plans in place to protect consumers' interests moving forward.
Now, Clausen says his clients still need to review MPI's application. We're learning more about the impact a Telus outage had on 911 service in this province back in March. A report to Canada's telecom regulator last week shows 177 calls couldn't make it through to Brandon's 911 facility for 40 hours between March 22nd and 24th. Telus blames the outage on equipment failure at a Bell facility. The company says it has disciplined one of its technicians who didn't escalate the issue with either company. 8 hard-working high school athletes went home with some coveted hardware today. The Manitoba High School Athletic Association has named this year's Athletes of the Year. Students from schools all over the province were honored. Matt Humphrey has more.
If you want to be Manitoba's overall high school athlete of the year, it takes more than hitting a home run. And it takes more than being a team player. To win these trophies, you need to excel both on and off the field.
Kind of had the goal in mind of trying to win Athlete of the Year since grade 9. I mean, I played as many sports as I could every year.
8 students from across Manitoba were selected by the High Schools Athletic Association to get awards, and the overall high school male and female athletes of the year were named. From Vincent Massey Collegiate, grade 12 student Magnus Carlos walked away with 1 title, and Peyton Durand in grade 12 at Collège Jean Sauvé came away with the other.
I think just staying consistent and just always keep going and never taking a day off and just kind of putting in the work.
Durand's parents are both phys ed teachers. She credits them for her success in sports like volleyball, hockey, and track and field.
When she started playing mini soccer when she was super young, playing with boys, and she was dominating right at that time. And we're like, well, we're in trouble for this one because it's going to cost us a lot of money. And it has.
Carlos's main sport is basketball, and he has some advice for young players who want to succeed.
I would just tell them to stay true to themselves and be disciplined with their work pretty much. It's not just going to happen sitting there. You have to go out and do it yourself.
His father, Charles, taught him the fundamentals.
He could really potentially go far with this, right? But he was also very short at the time, so which was quite ironic. He ended up becoming 6'3" point guard.
Next year, Carlos is headed to Brock University to keep playing basketball, and Durand will continue her hockey and football career next year in North Dakota at Lake Region State College. Matt Humphrey, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, let's bring back meteorologist Colette Kennedy now. Colette, we were talking about people heading home in northern Manitoba, and you're tracking some rain.
Thanks, Riley. Yeah, I mentioned some rain coming to areas where we need more moisture and more rain. We'll take it if we can get it, but a time when perhaps we don't want the rainfall tomorrow evening for another very important forecast, and it is looking like a dry one with the Blue Bombers. Yes, we have visiting the Edmonton Elks, and let's see if we can get that record to 3-0 from 2-0. I think we'll have a pretty good chance. 24 degrees for the temperature at kickoff, 7:30, and the winds just then kind of picking up a little bit. They shouldn't be a real factor, 10 to 20 kilometers an hour. Speaking of winds, how about the winds in the upper atmosphere? The jet stream can be the dividing line between cooler air to the north and warmer air to the south. And in the case of Ontario and Quebec, as it slides a bit further south, it's kind of pushing away that ridge and the very extreme hot air that they've been experiencing and all the record highs there. Also giving a little more energy here with what we have on the backside of a ridge of high pressure that's creating a boundary and giving us some of these rain showers. Now, they've been pushing away from the city as we're going into the later afternoon and early evening hours here, but still some wet weather to be found there, and certainly some of that cloud cover, but clearing out overnight tonight. And then this is so encouraging, is yes, along the warm front there'll be a difference in some of the temperatures and maybe some cooler air to the north, but it's the rainfall along that mechanism providing that lift. So Flin Flon, Swan Lake, through Thompson, these areas, it looks like we could get some decent amounts of rainfall. We'll take a look at that a little bit later in the show in terms of those amounts. But also, I do want to point out that as we go into Friday, starting the day, Westman certainly looking like you could get some wet weather there and even further north. And then as we move through the day, scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms possible into Winnipeg and heading through Eastman. So that's what you have to look for as we go into the overnight hours Friday and into Saturday morning. Be aware of that. Be sky aware so you know what's going on. And mostly sunny for tomorrow, 25 back to seasonal. We begin to climb with those temperatures as we push towards the weekend and getting closer to Canada Day. And in fact, speaking of Canada Day, we'll take a look at that forecast a little bit later in the show when we extend to the 7-day.
All right, thank you so much, Colette. U.S. President Donald Trump is insisting that Iran's nuclear facilities were obliterated after the U.S. strikes on Saturday. He's rejecting leaked U.S. intelligence reports that only set back Tehran's nuclear programs by a few months. Sam Sampson is following the latest for us from Washington.
With the ceasefire between Israel and Iran holding, humanitarian crews get a moment to breathe and assess damage from days of strikes. Trump has repeatedly said his Saturday strikes obliterated 3 Iranian nuclear sites.
I said, Iran will not have nuclear. Well, we blew it up. It's blown up to kingdom come.
But there are major contradictions coming from several U.S. media outlets reporting on a leaked intelligence document. They're reporting that the U.S. attack did not destroy Iran's nuclear program, but rather set it back a few months, and that Iran moved enriched uranium before the strikes. Trump's staff denies the information.
We're doing a leak investigation with the FBI right now because this information is for internal purposes, battle damage assessments, and CNN and others are trying to spin it to make the president look bad when this was an overwhelming success.
Now, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson would only say that the sites were badly damaged. The world is waiting for the United Nations nuclear watchdog to issue its report on the damage done. Iran today said it would cut ties with that group since it has not condemned the U.S. bombings, but that UN team insists it needs to get into Iran and assess what happened.
It was military action until yesterday, so there is, of course, common sense and dignity that we need to respect. But at the same time, we have said we need to return.
Donald Trump's objective was to destroy Iran's work to build a nuclear weapon. But some analysts say if the sites were not completely destroyed, as this leaked report suggests, that's a problem.
If you leave a country with enrichment sites, the ability to make more centrifuges, and 900 pounds of enriched uranium, no matter how great of a job you did blowing some things up, you've still fallen short of your goal.
U.S. lawmakers were supposed to receive a classified debrief on the American strikes on Tuesday, but those were postponed at the last minute. Now the hope is for more information and the truth about the damage to come out in meetings on Thursday. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Washington.
The NATO Leaders Summit has wrapped with a historic new agreement. Member nations have agreed to a dramatic increase in their defense budgets, promising to more than double what most currently spend. It's what Donald Trump has been demanding for years, and Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada is on board with that plan. Kate McKenna has the details from The Hague.
It could be the most consequential NATO meeting in decades, with allies agreeing to boost defense spending to levels not seen since the Second World War.
NATO leaders agreed on the The Hague Defense Investment Plan. And this will fuel a quantum leap in our collective defense.
The new 5% of GDP target was a demand of U.S. President Donald Trump, long accusing allies of not pulling their weight.
NATO is going to become very strong with us. It's a great victory for everybody, I think.
Countries have a 10-year deadline to hit 5%.
The deterrence element of NATO has just gone up substantially, and it's crucial. And we would really feel it if we went in the other direction.
Canada only agreed to meet the previous benchmark of 2% this month, but now it's agreed to 5%, saying it'll hit the target through funding new equipment, infrastructure, and technology.
We must ensure that NATO remains strong, unified, and ready to confront the threats not just of today, but of tomorrow.
The 5% is broken into 2 buckets, 1.5% of GDP on infrastructure funding and 3.5% on core military needs.
Canada has already beginning working towards a target of 3.5% of GDP by 2035.
It's a big spend. The full 5% represents about $150 billion per year, more than double what's paid now.
Material.
Mark Carney says the new spending is backloaded and Canadians could feel a pinch down the road.
We will have to make considerations about what less the federal government can do in certain cases. Those trade-offs happen towards the end of the decade into the next decade.
This new defense spending target will be reviewed by allies in 2029 to make sure the plan is still working. That also happens to be the year Donald Trump leaves office. Kate McKenna, CBC News, The Hague.
Back in this country, a small community west of Ottawa is being warned to keep a close watch over their children. It comes after an 8-year-old girl was found with serious injuries on Tuesday. Police suspect she may have been attacked by an animal. But as Nicole Williams reports, they are still not certain exactly what happened.
Police and wildlife officers searched the woods in Quadeville, Ontario, about 2 hours west of Ottawa. The forest here is dense, but inside is something they suspect is behind a vicious attack.
People are, they're frightened.
That's because an 8-year-old girl went missing on Monday. She had been out with friends, last seen in this area. It prompted a community-wide search. Ontario Provincial Police bringing in search dogs, finally tracking her down in the forest in the early hours of Tuesday. And when they pulled her out, discovered she was seriously hurt.
We're not releasing the specific details of the injuries. They were very traumatic. In the initial stages, they did appear to be life-threatening injuries.
OPP not clear on what did this to the little girl, but suspect she was the victim of an animal attack, issuing a warning to those living nearby, keep a close eye on small children or even have them stay inside.
Could we be being overly cautious? Perhaps. If it was a wild animal, perhaps it's left the area, but we don't know that.
It's alarming, but it's understandable. Anything can happen. If a young girl, young boy goes walking and they don't know where they're going and they get, mixed up.
As for the little girl, she was brought to a nearby hospital where she was made stable enough to then be airlifted to the Children's Hospital in Ottawa. The family's pastor with them there while she underwent surgery.
I think it's important for people to know that the doctor did use the word miracle. She did say that it was a miracle that she was alive.
Officials say an investigation into exactly what happened is ongoing. There will be DNA testing to determine if and what kind of animal may have been behind the attack. The residents in this area say they are both extremely relieved that this little girl was found alive, but their minds are far from being put at ease. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Quadeville, Ontario.
Canada's Public Health Agency says 72 people have fallen ill from salmonella across the country following a multi-province recall of salami. 3 different salami products were recalled 2 weeks ago. Hot and sweet Genoa salami from the Rhea brand and mild salami from Boma brand have all been affected. They were sold in grocery stores in Alberta, Ontario, and Manitoba. They may have also been sold unwrapped, sliced, or in sandwiches. 57 salmonella cases have been reported in Alberta. Ontario has 14 cases and Manitoba has 1. If you've bought these products, you're advised to either return them to the store that you bought them at or throw them out. New housing numbers have been released by Statistics Canada showing the latest trend in rental prices. And while prices remain high in big cities compared to before the pandemic, they are heading in the right direction for renters, at least. Nisha Patel has the details.
Vancouver is the most expensive city for renters. A 2-bedroom apartment there costs more than $3,100 a month. Toronto coming in a close second. Still, compared to a year ago, rents are lower.
I currently am getting a deal and I'm never going to leave.
I think there's less demand.
In a new study, StatsCan tracked asking rents to get a better picture of the current market. In Vancouver and Calgary, the average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment dropped 8% in the first 3 months of this year, compared to the same time a year ago. Toronto and Halifax saw a 6% drop.
We are seeing rent declines through a combination of increased rental supply. New rental stock has come onto the market over the last few years, coupled with the decrease in population growth. So you're seeing increased supply, reduced demand, and that is translating into lower asking rents.
As landlords scramble to fill vacant units, some are turning to tactics like move-in bonuses. So renters may find now is a good time to shop around.
There's so many rental incentives right now, including, 1 to 2 months of free rent, or there's some housing providers giving, $500 gift cards. So those are some things to really take advantage of at the moment.
But even with the recent cool down, rents are still steep compared to pre-pandemic levels. In Montreal, rent for a 2-bedroom apartment is nearly 71% higher than in 2019.
It is a big chunk of my salary, and because it's a big chunk of salary, your mind is always there that what if the rent increased, what would I do?
It's getting ridiculous at this point because at some point people will not be available to afford it.
Over the past few years, governments have introduced measures to boost rental housing construction. Experts say with greater supply, rents could continue to fall. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
DHL and its union have reached a tentative agreement after workers spent more than 2 weeks on the picket line. More than 2,000 DHL employees represented by Unifor have been on strike since June 8th. Truck drivers, couriers, warehouse and call center staff across the country walked off the job after negotiations broke down between the union and the German-owned delivery company. We are getting a true scale of destruction on the Greek island of Chios after wildfires scorched more than 4,000 hectares of land in 3 days. Drone footage shows the aftermath from the wildfires that broke out on Sunday. Windy conditions only made it harder for fire crews and locals as they tried to contain the flames. A woman suspected of discarding a cigarette and triggering one of the blazes was charged with unintentional arson. Authorities say climate change has made wildfires more destructive in recent years. Well, after days of heat warnings being in place for much of Ontario and Quebec, it's Nova Scotia's turn for the extreme heat today, with humidity making the temperatures feel even worse. Heat alone can be dangerous, possibly even deadly, but combine it with wildfire smoke and the risks get higher. Shayna Luck now on how a new study is connecting the two and what you can do to stay safe.
They smelled it before they saw it.
It's not the most common way that fires are discovered.
A brief evacuation after provincial staff went on patrol just east of Halifax and followed their noses to a small wildfire. This time, a helpful early warning sign. But with wildfire smoke across parts of Western Canada and rising temperatures and heat alerts in the east, new research is warning of the increased risk to health when heat and smoke hit at the same time.
Your body's just got a lot going on, so it's not surprising that when we combine those two exposures, they're riskier than either exposure alone.
The study looked at 21,000 deaths in the Vancouver area over more than a decade. Heat is the bigger danger. But layer on smoke, and the study found the risk of dying goes up 8%. That's compared with days that are neither hot nor smoky. People with pre-existing health conditions are most at risk. But a McMaster University respirologist says more research could be required to find out why.
Why does, heat potentially make smoke inhalation worse or, have more health effects? That's where we can then really get into giving very specific advice and changing practice.
Researchers do know kids, seniors, and pregnant women are at risk. So are those who can't take shelter at all.
It very much does bother me because I have asthma.
An extra danger for those living on the street.
The heat is really illuminating these cracks in our system, these real gaps that people have challenges that will go well before and beyond the heat waves that are playing out across the country.
When it comes to dealing with hot, smoky weather, experts say make sure you have a place with cool, clean indoor air, even if it's just one room in your home. And if you don't have access to that, try to keep cool while outside. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
All right, let's bring back meteorologist Colette Kennedy now. And Colette, no stranger to wildfire smoke here in Manitoba these last several weeks, and you're tracking some wet weather that's on the way to parts of northern Manitoba.
Thanks, Riley. Well, we're still looking this evening at a few of those showers kind of hugging the border with the U.S. here. They've been pushing further south, though. We've got a little boundary here. There's a system to the south, but also a ridge of high pressure and kind of on the back side of that. That's creating some of this lift and some of the wet weather that we're experiencing here. Further west, there is going to be another system coming in, and with that, getting into some wet weather, especially in the areas where we'd really like to see that, and I'll show you how how much rain we could be getting into here in just a moment. But for now, let's just take a look at what's going on tonight in the short term. Okay, still Morden, Winkler. I mean, essentially right now from Killarney to Winkler, we still have some wet weather with some light showers. So that potential there into the overnight. Melita likely drying out, 11 degrees for the low, 13 for the low into Winnipeg. Further north, we do have that chance even tonight of getting into some showers, although those would likely be on the lighter side there for Flin Flon. But then we'll get pockets. I know it's localized here as we move towards tomorrow morning, but where there'll be some heavier downpours at times, and then that kind of pushes on as we move in and get that warm front moving in, and that moves on not only through the day Thursday, but that chance into Friday for that rainfall as well. For Thursday morning, we'll begin to get things chugging along with the temperature, and we'll have a lot of sunshine here thanks to that ridge of high pressure, sinking air. It will be stable, and so it's going to be a nice day for southern Manitoba as we move through the day on Thursday. And just checking out the rainfall, this is stopped at Friday afternoon, okay, but I'm going to push it forward because I want you to see from there onward it becomes a bit more widespread, and yeah, that chance for over 25 millimeters for Flin Flon, perhaps close to 40 for the Pas. So really looking forward to that. And yes, you just have to keep in mind a few isolated to scattered showers possible for Winnipeg as we get towards Friday evening and overnight to Saturday. Okay, this is Fred. What a cutie. Sent to us by Susan. Looks like a puppy, a Bernedoodle there, no less. I can't even. Too cute. And in terms of your dog walking forecast, yeah, green paws all the way. So Susan, you can take Fred out, and I can take Bogey out. Anyone, you can take your dog out. It looks like a great day for it on Thursday. We'll take a look at the extended forecast when I come back, getting all the way to Canada Day.
All right, thank you, Colette. Well, it is officially summer, and with growing lawns comes the city's neighborhood livability bylaw. It outlines the minimum standards for maintaining the plants on your property, including the grass, which must be no longer than 6 inches. The city's complaint-based grass enforcement program gives residents up to 10 days after a warning to cut it, or the city will do it for you and add the cost to your property tax bill. Information radio host Marcy Marcusa spoke with a resident of East Elmwood who received a notice of non-compliance on June 11th for grass he says had already been cut.
So it's a bit long. Someone complains. They show up and say, did you get it in the mail?
I got an envelope in my mailbox with the compliance order on it. I received that either the 11th or the 12th of June. Said it had to be cut by the 14th of June. But
So what did you do after that?
I'd already cut it like the week before, and I went out and looked at it, and it wasn't over 6 inches. It was probably about that high. Well, that's about 2 or 3 inches.
Got it. Yeah, you're showing us
So
your
I
fingers.
just ignored it.
Okay. And so then after that, what happened?
On the 17th, I got a notice another notice in my mailbox saying that they're going to do an inspection and remediate it on the 18th.
Okay.
So I called them, got no answer. I phoned them, I've emailed them, I've got no response from either.
Yeah.
On the 18th, my alarm system went off because they were in my backyard. I don't know why they were in my backyard when they're complaining about the boulevard to start off with.
What were they doing in your backyard?
Cutting the grass. That was about 1.5 inches long.
So listen, you have a house like most people that have homes in Winnipeg. You've got a front yard that I'm guessing is public view.
Yep.
The boulevard's public view.
Yeah.
Is your backyard fenced, or is it?
Yes, it's fenced, and the fence you can't open it from the outside unless you climb up over the top of it, reach down, and grab the latch on the inside.
So what'd you think when someone's back there cutting your grass?
Well, I couldn't understand why they were in the back there doing it, being that this complaint was supposedly of the front boulevard. And it had all been cut already. So I spoke to the lady over the camera, which doesn't get recorded, unfortunately, on my camera. And she said, oh, yeah, there was a few high patches on the boulevard. So I asked her, well, why are you in my backyard cutting the grass then? And she just walked away.
Okay. So have you been charged for this badge?
I haven't received anything since they were there.
So there's a $250 administration fee.
That's if you want to put in appeal for it.
Got it. So if you actually want to take this and say, hey, what were you doing in my backyard? And by the way, my front yard was cut after you guys, the order came out. It was already short enough. Are you going to appeal this?
I can't because I'm past the deadline for it already. The deadline is the date of compliance. And it says right on the compliance order, if it's not submitted with $250 administration fee, they won't even look at it after that, like if it's late.
So you're stuck with $250 because you can't appeal. Are you also stuck with the labor fee that's going to be on the property taxes because of the cutting?
I'm going to end up paying for that plus an administration fee, it says.
So how do you feel the city should be handling all of this? Because I understand you're not actually against the grass cutting bylaw.
No, I'm not against the bylaw at all, but if it's not unsightly, why are you doing it? You can drive up and down the street that I'm on, the next street over, and there's grass that's like 2-3 times the height of that's on my house, but it seems like they're almost singling certain people out.
I think it's based on our reporting. It's based on a complaint system. So if you don't know who complains, but somebody has had complaint. How do you feel about that? Do you think that they should be assessing it themselves, or how do you feel about it being based on random complaints, I guess?
I have no problems with people complaining, like if it's unsightly. But when you can obviously see by the pictures I provided you, it's not really even unsightly.
I wonder if we have those photos. They've been going up actually throughout the interview. Yeah, you're watching them on our monitors here because we're on YouTube, of course, while we're live on the radio. So there you are. So that's after you had cut the grass already.
I think so,
yeah. Yeah, this is not, just so people can imagine, like if you're imagining really overgrown up to sort of the bottom of the windowsills in a bungalow, that's not the case here. You can even see some of your vegetation, your flower bed is above the grass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like it just doesn't make sense to me why they're picking on something like, if they came before the 27th of May and inspected it, yes, I can understand it because there were dandelions growing.
You had some stuff going on.
But it was cut on the 27th, so
they should have taken note of that. That's
exactly.
Logically.
And I cannot see it growing 6 inches in like a week.
What prompted you to cut it? Like, when did you cut? What prompted you to make that first cut?
When I looked at it and said, "Holy mackerel, this is getting long. I better get rid of it."
Now, we did ask Councillor Janice Lukes about this. She is the city's Public Works Board chair. She said Moody's case seems, quote, odd. The city is reviewing what happened.
Welcome back, folks. A chance to take another look at the 5-day forecast, but also to get on to the holiday into next week with Canada Day. Let's start off with tomorrow. Mostly sunny skies. Midday, there could be a little bit of extra cloud cover mixing in there, but seasonal high of 25. I do want you to take note that this is in the evening, mostly for Winnipeg, that we get into the chance for some isolated to scattered showers or thunderstorms overnight into Saturday morning, then becoming mostly sunny on Saturday, quite warm as well. Each day, though, with a bit of humidity, we have a chance of getting a thunderstorm bubbling up, especially heightened into Monday, but Tuesday, lower sunshine. And for Canada Day, how about a high near 28 degrees, Riley?
Looks good. Thanks, Colette. Well, there's nothing like kicking back on a summer night, maybe on the weekend, and catching a few innings at the ballpark. But are you grabbing a hot dog or a hamburger? The CBC's Jonathan Pinto stopped by a ball game in Thunder Bay. That classic argument, hot dog or hamburger, is our daily lift.
Yeah, hot dogs or popcorn?
Popcorn.
Popcorn? Yeah. And like, what makes a hot dog at the game better than like a regular hot dog, at home?
The foil. I don't know, a hot dog and foil is always the best.
Had a bag of chips already. I'm sure I'll have a hamburger before I'm done.
Popcorn's mandatory.
Popcorn's mandatory. Okay. You went for a burger while everybody else seems to be going for a hot dog. Why is that?
Because you look like you were interviewing people who got hot dogs.
When I think of a ball game, I think a lot of people think of hot dogs.
Absolutely.
Okay, but how popular are the burgers?
Honestly, not quite as popular as the hot dogs. Hot dogs are the thing to get, man.
How many hot dogs do you think you've served over the last, you said 2 years you've been in the concession?
Yeah, about 60,000. About 60,000.
Now, what is it about a hot dog at a ball game that's better than a hot dog at home?
Hot dogs at home, you don't get the big, nice, juicy jumbos, and we make them all with love.
That's a plain dog. Is that so? You don't put anything on your hot dog? So it's more because it's better,
there's
right?
something about like a boiled, like steamed and tinfoil kind of hot dog on a summer night. It's just great. We love it.
What's the most popular thing you sell? So right now you got popcorn, you got beer, you got pop, and you got some peanuts. Like what are people gravitating towards today?
Today, probably popcorn.
All right, well, if you're looking for that ballpark dog, the Gold Eyes, by the way, are next at home Friday at 7 versus Milwaukee. Just ketchup for me, maybe some potato chips if I can get them too. Thanks for watching. We'll